I'm 16 and I already have back pain. I don't need, I don't want to get old. Anyways, hey everyone, my name is Jason. Welcome to my humble little channel. I have 9 subscribers, and this is the first and hopefully the only installment of Poetry taught by Dummies. Nice to meet you, I am Dummies, and today I will be teaching poetry. It's gonna be great, trust me. But what poem are we gonna be learning about today, you may ask? I am here to waste 10 minutes of your day. So the poem that we're gonna be reading today is Southbound on the Freeway. It is by Swenson, and I don't want to waste too much time, so let's just get into it.
Southbound on the Freeway by Swenson. A tourist came in from Oberville, parked in the air, and said, "The creatures of the star are made of metal and glass. Through the transparent parts, you can see their guts. Their feet are round and roll on diagrams, or long measuring tapes, dark with white lines. They have 4 eyes. The 2 in the back are red. Sometimes you can see a 5-eyed one, with a red eye turning on the top of his head. He must be special. The others respect him and go slow when he passes, winding among them from behind. They all hiss as they glide, like inches down the marked tapes. Those soft shapes, shadowy inside the hard bodies. Are they their guts or their brains?" Alright, time to change it up a bit. As you can tell, I'm on an iPad now, and we're going to do a line-by-line breakdown of the entire poem. This is going to be pretty quick. This is pretty much just explaining all the metaphors and all the imagery in the poem. So we're not going to go too far into it. We'll talk more in depth later on, so let's get started. Oop, that was a mistake. A tourist came from Oberville, parked in the air, and said, "A tourist from Oberville," that shows that it's an alien, some type of foreigner, and they're coming from a place called Oberville. They're parked in the air, likely in a UFO or whatever vehicle they came in, and this is what they're saying, indicating that the rest of the poem is going to be from their perspective. But the very first stanza is pretty much a premise told from the perspective of a third-person narrator, likely omniscient. So onto the second stanza, we have the creatures of the star are made of metal and glass. So the alien assumes that what they're seeing are living organisms, and they're inhabiting a star, which we all know the Earth is a planet, and they're made of metal and glass. Now, metal and glass are both inorganic materials, so it's quite strange for a living organism to be made of metal and glass. But moving on, through the transparent parts, you can see their guts. Transparent parts and guts. Now, transparent parts, glass is transparent, so that's what it's referring to. And you can see their guts, referring to the internal organs. And guts is a slang term for internal organs, so we know that. Their feet are round and roll on diagrams, or long measuring tapes, dark with white lines. I combine those two because it's one sentence. So their feet are round and roll on diagrams, or long measuring tapes, dark with white lines. Now, this is where I'll start to explain the metaphors, because now we get the full picture. Feet are round and roll. What is something that is round and rolls? A wheel. And if you look at an animal, the feet are located at the bottom, and is what an animal uses to walk. And that's how that's how a car moves. They use their wheels to move. So that's how we know. And also, a car is made out of metal as the body, and it has glass components, which are the windows, where you can see through it and see the internals. But it's quite strange how the alien believes that this car is a living organism in and of itself, and the internal organs are us. We are inside the car, so it sees us as just some organs, and the car as an autonomous part. But anyways, we have diagrams or long measuring tapes, dark with white lines. Diagrams are the freeways, as they're very complicated systems, and long measuring tapes as the roads themselves, dark with white lines. Dark is just the gray or black concrete, and the white lines are the lane markings. And the creatures, the cars, they have 4 eyes, and the 2 in the back are red. Now, what does a car have in 4s? Lights. The 2 in the front are headlights, and the 2 in the back are backlights, and backlights are red. And this has some symbolic significance, but I'll go into that later on. Sometimes you can see a 5-eyed one with the red eye turning on the top of his head. Now, there aren't any cars nowadays that have 5 lights. All of them have 4 lights. But back in the day, when Swenson wrote it in the 1960s, there were some police cars that had a red siren on the top of the roof, and it was always turning when they turned it on. So that's where the 5-eyed one is. He must be special. He referred to here is the police car themselves, as this creature still believes that the cars are living beings, so the police car is special. The others respect him and go slow when he passes, whining among them from behind. The others respect him. This shows, well, this is alluding to our natural life, where if you're driving, you like to let the police car drive by if the sirens are on. So the sirens are on, you know it's an emergency, so you have to let them pass pretty much, and they're whining among you from behind. They all hiss as they glide like inches down the marked tapes. Now, what is hiss? Hiss is an allusion to a snake, and snakes are quite insignificant in the greater picture of the earth. They're not as important as humans, and this shows how insignificant the cars are, or humans in the cars, as they don't know what humans are, so they just assume that these cars are pretty insignificant. Like inches is also another insignificant word because it's quite small. They could have used kilometers, meters, feet, miles, whatever, but they use inches. Very small measurement. And those soft shapes, shadowy inside the hard bodies, are they their guts or their brains? Now this is the true theme of the story. This is the crux. This is the major question that we should be asking, and this is where the tone shifts and it really picks up right at the end. But let's slow it down a little bit. These soft shapes. What are the soft shapes? The soft shapes are referring to humans. In a car, the only thing soft in there is the squishy flesh of a person. So those are the soft shapes. And shadowy inside shows that the alien doesn't know much about us. We're quite shadowy. There's some allure, some mystery, something that the alien doesn't know. The hard bodies. The hard bodies are just the car, the metal, And are they their guts or their brains? This is the pivotal question. Are we the guts of the car? Like, are we the gears? Are we the engine? Or are we the brains? Are we controlling the car? That's the question that we should be asking. But that's later on. I'll explain that in the theme. But let's look at the big picture. What is this poem? Well, it is a free verse poem, as you can tell. There's not any rhyme towards it. There's not any rhyme in it. There's one part where it rhymes red and head, but that's completely irrelevant because there's no consistent rhyme pattern, pretty much. It is written in free verse, and there are 13 stanzas with 2 lines in each stanza, as you can see. And yeah, there's a lot of metaphors and a lot of imagery. May Swenson loves using metaphors and imagery. The whole poem is a metaphor, as humans are never explicitly explained or included at all. They never use the word humans. They never talk about human bodies. They only talk about guts inside of a car. So yeah, a lot of imagery, and we'll go into the meaning of those images later on.
Well, let's get into archetypes, illusions, and associations. Although this poem doesn't follow many of the traditional archetypes we find in other pieces of literature, we can compare it to the context of the poem. Now, in the context of the poem, the alien can be seen as an outcast or a loner because he's very secluded from Earth and humans. There aren't many allusions either, but there is one, prominent one, in line 21. Line 21 reads, "They all hiss as they glide." This is an allusion to the book of Genesis from the Holy Bible. It refers to the serpent of the story and is utilized in the poem to point out the minuscule cars relative to the higher position taken by the alien. It also may refer to the morality of technology itself. Now let's get into some associative ideas. Some prominent concepts that feature in this are technological advancements, innovation and progress, servitude/dependency, human anatomy, advancements in the automotive industry, and space exploration. Some of the emotional associations, however, are appeals to fear, curiosity, pessimism, and gloom. Now, onto style and structure. If we're looking purely at her diction, her words are very descriptive, but basic. She also uses concrete diction, such as in lines 7 through 10, which reads, "Their feet are round and roll on diagrams, or long measuring tapes, dark with white lines." Feet, round, diagrams, long measuring tapes, dark and white lines are all examples of concrete diction. Those are specific words that can be associated with specific physical characteristics. As for her structure, she uses short lines of stanzas that are easy to comprehend. There are 13 stanzas with 2 lines each, which create a total of 26 lines. Unlike most poems, her sentences follow traditional grammatical rules. This includes punctuation where punctuation should be, and it doesn't utilize obscure grammar in any way. The sentences are broken up across the lines and stanzas and often don't complete at the end of the line. This is done for the sake of enjoyment, which is pretty much putting important words at the end of lines. Her primary pattern of development is description. The majority of the poem is focused on the alien's perspective on describing cars on a freeway. It also uses compare and contrast, as it uses metaphors to compare the humans to the cars. Now let's talk about tone and tone shifts. Throughout the majority of the poem, the primary tones that we can see are whimsical, childish, naive, friendly, simple, also monotone. The tone is most evident through the alien's mannerisms and how he talks. As we went over in the structure section, we know that the sentences are very short, which is akin to what most kids can write. However, it is also whimsical and lighthearted, as there is a comedic effect in knowing what the alien is seeing, while the alien doesn't know what they're seeing. In order to make this simpler, I'll make an analogy to, I'm sure everyone's like talked to a kid before, and sometimes they tell you a story and you just have to go along with it. But on the inside, like, you want to laugh pretty much, because you know that they're not thinking straight, obviously. However, we do see a major shift in the last stanza. As we went over previously, tourist creates a friendly vibe, as we often associate an image of the stereotypical tourist in our head. Now we can all imagine the dad who thinks he's cool, he has khaki shorts, he has a nice floral button-up shirt, some shades, maybe a camera to take some photos for his family. And for Orbitville, I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched any Star Wars or Star Trek, any sci-fi movie any sci-fi anything out there, but there aren't many places named Orbitville. I mean, that's pretty on the nose. Just from that, we know it's from a perspective of maybe a child character, as Orbit is very simple. I mean, most people associate with aliens, but Ville was also the name of many small American towns. This can show their limited mindset, as they can only fabricate stories using their immediate environment rather than going outside of the box and being creative, pretty much. I'm guilty of this, you're guilty of this, I'm sure everyone has done this, but kids always think that they're very right, no matter what. And that's pretty much what we saw throughout the beginning, before the tone shift. It was very matter of fact, and the alien asserted that everything that he was seeing, his observations, were true, and he had no doubt about it. In the last answer, he asked a genuine question. Are they their guts or their brains? The alien simplified this question because previously all he had to do was make simple observations and draw a conclusion from that. But this question can't be answered with a simple observation and requires some critical thinking and further analysis. As we were following along with the perspective of the alien, we were pretty humored by its thoughts and actions. As we're following along, it's pretty humorous and there's nothing too serious about it, but right in the last part, then we realized what the true theme and what the true purpose of the story was. Mace Swenson was directly asking us a question. As the alien asked that question, we're led to ask the exact same question and really think about what we just heard, and then we can finally break it down at the end. Now on to arguably the most important aspects of a good poem, the author's purpose and thematic connections. We already went over Mace Swenson's background, but to fully understand the author's purpose, we have to break down the historical context and environmental factors that might have influenced her writing.
Anna Theodore Mae Swenson was born on May 28, 1913 in Logan, Utah. However, some sources dispute this and claim that she was born in 1919. Her parents were both Swedish immigrants, therefore English was her second language. She graduated from Utah State University and worked as a reporter in Salt Lake City. She then moved to New York City in 1949 before working for New Directions Press in 1959. In 1966, she left her job there to fully pursue her passion in writing. During this time, she featured as a poet-in-residence at many colleges, including the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and Lethbridge University in Alberta, Canada, to name a few. Her work did not go unnoticed, as she won Guggenheim, Rockefeller, and MacArthur fellowships and a translation medal from the International Poetry Forum in 1972. Earl Bloom, a renowned American literary critic, praised Swenson, considering her as one of the most monumental and innovative poets of the 20th century. She became known for her manipulation of language and technical skill set through the use of literary devices such as metaphors, alliteration, assonance, and dissonance. As we saw from Southbound on the Freeway, she loves using imagery. She passed away on December 4th, 1989, at the age of 76. Now let's learn a little bit more about the time period she lived in and how it inspired her to write Southbound on the Freeway. Starting in the 20s, cars began taking over the roads in America. Of course, there needed to be infrastructure to accommodate for this large number of drivers. It was only after World War II in 1956 when the National Defense and Interstate Highway Act was passed under President D. Eisenhower. It led to the construction of interstate highways as well as smaller roadways, which allowed for the birth of the suburbs. Now, the majority of adults depended on cars to get to and from work. Another direct influence on the subject of the poem were NASA space programs in the 50s and 60s. America was in a Cold War with the Soviet Union, rushing to develop new space technologies. In 1960, NASA sent the Echo 1 satellite into space, and in 1962, they sent John Glenn into orbit. These scientists were searching for information in the universe outside of our planet, sparking interest in the scientific community and regular civilians alike on the potential of extraterrestrial life. This period of space exploration led to the boom of UFO and alien sightings, with Southbound on the Freeway lying at the height of this craze. The Apollo missions eventually led to the first successful landing of man on the moon. With the advent and exponential growth of new technologies, Americans really began asking, what are the dangerous and philosophical and societal implications of these machines? On the surface level, the inspiration for writing this poem was to entertain children. However, May Swenson's purpose for writing Southbound on the Freeway was to raise awareness on humanity's potentially dangerous dependency on technology, while concurrently entertaining children and adults alike with a seemingly lighthearted tale of an alien. But let's dig a little deeper. Although it doesn't look like it at first, it delves into a very serious subject matter. Cars and humans are juxtaposed throughout the entire poem, and the longer we listen, the more willing we are to accept the potential validity of these statements. From the point of view of an outsider such as the alien, who has less biases about humanity than humans, the objective line appears extremely blurry. Robots can do a lot of the things that we do, and they do those things a lot better than us. Machines have become such an integral part of our day-to-day lives that they've adopted some human characteristics. This is evident in the reference to police cars, which indicate that there is even a social structure on roads. The question asked in the last stanza of the poem is, those soft shapes shadowy inside the hard bodies, are they their guts or their brains? This question might seem quite silly at first, but it questions our role in making cars drive. I mean, we like to call ourselves the driver, but are we any more important than the steering wheel or the engine itself? Although Swenson died before electric cars became widespread, we can apply these to the smart cars of today. I'm sure all of you have heard of Tesla, the best-selling car company in America right now. They're known for their smart cars, which can drive independent of human control. This isn't a new problem that has popped up because of Tesla. In fact, similar questions have been around since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. There's always been a fear of the creation taking over the creator, or the student beating the master. Fears have only been fueled further by the creation of AI. The AI that humans have developed can drive, they can talk, they can walk, they can fly, they can teach, they can even learn. There have been AIs that have been able to communicate with each other and even create new languages. So for the day that AI eventually takes control over the entire world, we depend on them, but they don't need us at all. Now, what is our role in society? We can't really predict how far technology will advance. All we can hope for is that it will take us along with it. Oh, and another point to bring up, cyborgs. With advancements in biotechnology, nanotechnology, and neurotechnology, we might become synonymous with robots. While it might be cool to have Google in your head and strong, chunky, metal robot arms, we give up parts of what makes us human. We sacrifice our freedom and break the laws of nature, just for convenience and pleasure. This is an existential criticism of how far humanity's obsession with technology has come. Now the real question is, have we doomed ourselves to extinction, and are we just too dumb to see it? There's another theme, however, and I don't want to go too much into it because I've already taken up a lot of time, but it's directly related to the theme that we just discussed. And this theme is awareness. Yup, awareness. It might seem quite simple and straightforward, but that's exactly what it is. In the story, we follow along from the point of view of the alien. Watching as an outsider, as a human, we know a lot more about humanity than the alien does. And our immediate instinct is to believe that, the alien is dumb, of course. I mean, who can't tell the difference between a star and a planet, and a car and a human? They do sound a little bit naive and rudimentary in their observations. That doesn't really matter to the alien. They're making all the assumptions from the previous knowledge that they hold, without caring about delving into the actual reality of the situation. Now, May Swenson does this for a couple of reasons. It's part of the criticism that points out how convoluted and unnaturally, as well as unnecessarily complex, American society and technology is. Apart from this, the theme is used to create certain parallels to human attributes. As humans, we're very stubborn and we have our preconceptions of how the world is, or rather, how we want the world to look. We either disregard the facts and reality intentionally, or we cloud our own judgment due to the biases and agendas roaming freely in our subconscious. Now, I have a special treat. Luckily for all of you guys, I've been able to fuse my very last 2 brain cells and create a hopefully magnificent poem that might be okay, but here we go. Trauma by Jason Tran. A little boy walked into his home, looked around and thought, my toys were thrown all throughout the house. Someone must have destroyed them because many were missing arms. The walls were covered in red as my dad was painting the walls. There was confetti covering the floor and the ceiling, but now I was sad that they were celebrating my birthday without me. My neighbors' houses were also quiet, so they were all hiding somewhere. I tried picking up the dolls, but they were very heavy. I looked at it instead, but it made a silly face with its eyes closed. The skin was very smooth today and very cold. I give it a hug, but some of the paint got on me. The dolls look very familiar, but I don't remember who they are. I need to clean up. Where are my parents? Yeah, so that poem was a little dark, but you guys can interpret it whatever way you want to. I'm not gonna go into it because you know what? Do what you made. I can't even speak anymore. I've spoken for too long. This video is way too long. I had a limit of 10 minutes. I went just a little bit over, just a little bit, but it's fine. It's whatever. Man, I hope I get a good grade on this project at least, cause it was not just this project, but I'm feeling very sleep deprived, very very tired, lacking a lot of motivation recently. So I appreciate it if you subscribe. There's probably gonna be like what, one view on this. I don't think anyone's gonna see this, but if you are seeing this and if you watch to the end of the video, um, yeah, just do whatever, the usual. Subscribe, comment, like, whatever. I don't really care. I might do another video that's not educational, something like more comedic or something more chill rather than this, something that I'm actually like passionate about. But yeah, I hope you like the video and have a nice day.